All right, welcome into today's show. You're listening to the Barbecue Life. I'm your host, Kurt Mueller. We're powered by Hound Hogs Barbecue Supply. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram at Hound Hogs BBQ. You can also find them at houndhogsbbq.com. So today I'm joined by a unique guest all the way from the middle of the state of Iowa. So joining us from the Midwest. Her name is Megan Willier, and she is the coordinator for the Rose Festival BBQ Competition that is located in State Center, Iowa, which is basically right in the middle of the state. So Megan, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I always like to provide some context for our listeners because I get asked a lot, how do I get connected with people? And social media is a powerful tool. But actually, in this case, Megan reached out to me. She heard one of our episodes with a fellow board member of hers on the Iowa Barbecue Society and reached out and said, hey, would love to be on the show. So I admire that. And I always enjoy having unique guests on the show. And Megan is certainly that because she's an organizer. She's a coordinator. And so I think this is going to give some great insight as to how we as teams can provide more value and really make sure that this is a mutually beneficial engagement with these organizers. So first and foremost, though, I always like to start with journey. My listeners know that I love just kind of listening to and learning more about the BBQ journey. So educate us, Megan. How did this all start? How did you become a coordinator and how did you get involved in all this crazy barbecue stuff?
So in the beginning, my boyfriend and I would barbecue at home. And we did it for many years. And then the coordinator that was doing the barbecue contest in State Center, I had kind of come along and I was like, oh, I'll get on the Rose Festival board and be part of the community. And then it led into getting to know the coordinator and kind of working on coordinating with the teams and things like that. Well, then that board dissolved. And before that board dissolved, I had taken a step back because I had my daughter and I was like, you know what? I need to take some time. I have two beautiful children and my youngest is 9.5. And so just certain things that I was like, I need to take a little bit of a break. Well, then a new board started for the Rose Festival board. And Buffy Honig, she reached out and she goes, hey, we need you. I go, for what? She goes, well, the barbecue is starting up and we need another coordinator for this. And I said, okay. And she goes, we have 2 other people that are willing to kind of do the backside of it, but we need the person. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you can talk to anybody. And I was like, that's true. Like, I know no stranger. I see certain things and I'm like, can I ask you a question? Who are you? Where are you from? That kind of thing. So then it just kind of rolled into, we worked together as a team for a couple years. And then they just had other things that needed to be taken care of. And I stayed on, for several years. I did it all by myself. I actually took care of the teams and the judges. And let me tell you, that's a lot of work. 2019, I kind of started a barbecue crew. And I'll have to say that my girl, Nikki Ayers, she literally has pulled out the stops to be my meat inspector for the KCBS competition. She is definitely my right-hand woman, and she has been for several years. And I really appreciate her. I've also grown a couple other wonderful women. Actually, I have more women that help me with the barbecue for the organizing side of it versus men. In the first few years, it was definitely my boyfriend and his friends because I conned him into doing it.
Right. Yep.
But now it's a group of us women that take care of the other pieces of it. So it's been great.
Love that. And you're exactly right. I mean, let's be real here. You know, in general, women tend to be better organizers than men. Now, I know I'm probably going to get some folks commenting on that, but hey, let's be real. I know my strengths, and unfortunately, one of them is not organizing. So you're dead on the money there. So tell us about the competition itself, though. You know, how big is this competition? How many teams do you guys normally get?
State Center actually is the home of the longest lasting KCBS competition in the state of Iowa. If we would not have had COVID, we would be on our 23rd year.
Wow.
So, and I've actually been organizing this contest for 9 years consecutively, which is huge. My kids literally are, again, my like right hand with certain things, quick to the ball, especially my oldest son, Skylar. He's 16 now. So he's like, I need to make sure that on the back of my shirt, it says delivery boy mom. And I said, yeah, it will. But no, we keep the state center. Once it started, it shouldn't stop. And the Rose Festival is actually going on for 65 years. So State Center is the Rose capital of Iowa. We have our own Rose Garden. And actually what's really cool is the barbecue teams line up on city streets, and they're literally a block from the Rose Garden. And then we do live music down there on Friday night, which is super fun to show off that piece of our town. The last 2 years, I've had 32 teams show up, which most people that are in the barbecue world, you know that you have to have 25.
Yep.
I've only had 1 year that I did not get 25. And even with that year being a huge hit to me, like personally, it didn't stop me. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep going. The people that are dedicated to this are going to continue to come. I have one team in particular that I know that literally has been coming almost every year, and that's Smokehouse 72. And their local Cambridge Colo team from Iowa. It's like State Center is their backyard, so it's a no-brainer. But we've had teams come from Texas, Colorado, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska. I think I've had a Wisconsin team. I'm just now really trying to like learn Google Docs, which has been a beautiful thing.
It's awesome.
But yeah, just those types of things of like the teams really continue to make it grow, and they know that they got to be tight in the street to make sure everybody fits. Sure. And they do a great job of that. Well, and on your last few podcasts, everybody talks about barbecue family, and it's true. Like some of these teams, I've literally have seen their children as infants, and now they're like the same age as my daughter, running around and pretty much competing. Actually, I have a team out of Newton, and their daughters competed for my People's Choice. So I do a People's Choice on Friday night, and I open it up to anybody. You do not have to be a pro team. You could be backyard, team. And I'm pretty sure they were either 11-12 or 12-13 last year, and they took second place. So, wow. And they went against some big dogs too. Like it wasn't just, Maddie Max from Cedar Rapids area, BBQ from Cedar Rapids area. There was a lot of great teams. Darty Q from Atumwa. They're definitely one of those homegrown teams. My family's from Atumwa originally, and so it's like going home when I get to hang out with those guys. So, but it truly is a family for sure.
Yeah, there's no question. I love that about the barbecue community as a whole. And it's not just on the competition side either. I think it can be said for pretty much anything barbecue related. So I love the idea that there's some history behind this. I think you said that this Rose Festival has been going on for 60 plus years. And the barbecue festival has been, or the barbecue competition rather, has been going on for, over 20 years. So there's some there's some really good history there. From your standpoint, this is what I'm really curious about, because my listeners and those that see my content know that I'm very outspoken about the need for teams to provide more value to events, to the organizers. So I want to hear directly from you, right from the horse's mouth. You're the organizer. What can teams do from an organizer's standpoint to provide more value other than just showing up and saying, hey, give me some power, give me some water?
Read your email.
Yeah, that never happens.
No. Really, in all honesty, the teams that show up in State Center, to me, them dedicating that weekend, because it's Father's Day weekend every year. Rose Festival happens the third weekend in June for the rest of your life. So just make sure you put it on the calendar. So if you're going to come to State Center, you know when to come. but they're taking that time out of their family and coming to compete in barbecue. Now, some of them will actually bring their families, which is great because Rose Festival, we have carnival, we got parade that actually is a block from the barbecue teams. So when the kids, it's perfect. We have a car show on Saturday. I mean, it's not just a barbecue competition; it's a family weekend, and the Rose Festival board tries really hard to make things easy, accessible, and family friendly because we want you to stay. We want you to come in Thursday night and not leave until Sunday morning, which we all know barbecue teams. They show up Friday morning, sometimes Thursday, depends. I do have a few teams that will show up Thursday. But 3:00 is awards. By 4:15, the street is clear.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I understand you're taking the time out of your life to compete. So then it's great, but also it's kind of like, hey, I want to still hang out, guys. Like, I've been so busy coordinating for you to be here. And then Saturday night, I'm done. And then they're gone. And then I'm like, so, but I do get to see them at other contests. So I will go to other Iowa contests and promote Rose Festival. Now, the Iowa State Championship just happened the first weekend in April, and they did a great job. They had several teams come out. That contest is ran by Joe Osbring, and he is doing a fabulous job as being a competitor, not only in barbecue, but in steak, and then turning his roles into an organizer, which is super amazing because my brain does not work for cooking meat. My brain works for eating it and getting the people to come to it. So it's fun to see roles change and how they evolve. And it is true. If we don't start in the backyard, we'll never have a backyard team. We'll never have a KCBS Masters team. And then on top of that, we need an organizer. And then we need a judge. And I always say that there's 3 chairs at the table. And if you don't have one out of those 3 chairs, you have nothing.
Yep.
And you don't find that very often with other things that are happening. Most events, they're like, well, I don't have 1 and 2, but I have 3. Well, that works. And with barbecue, it doesn't.
That's right. Especially competition barbecue. You know, you have to have the organization. You got to have the judges. You got to have the reps. You got to have the teams. I mean, it all works in unison. And, you know, I love what you said just about, you know, the teams that do show up, you know, they are dedicating their time. They're sacrificing their time away from their family, sometimes away from their job, maybe even, you know, to get there and set up and do all that fun stuff. But I really want to turn up the temperature here because one of the things that I've realized very quickly in competition barbecue is it is a bit of a polarizing topic, right? This whole idea of how to engage with the general public better. Because again, this is something I'm outspoken about. I mean, I think that we as teams, our obligation, right? My opinion, but I believe our first obligation is to be welcoming to the public. And I say that for a number of reasons. One, as you said, it'll encourage other teams to start in backyard or maybe even go pro right out of the gate. 2, even if they don't want to, you know, do competition, it's still going to shine a very positive light on competition barbecue, which I think is really, really important. And I think it's so important that I don't believe the competition community can survive long term unless we start engaging with the public more and providing more value, not just to the public, but to organizers as well, right? When I talk to some organizers who say things like, you know, teams are great, you know, however, you know, we're spending X on water and power and all this other stuff. And financially, it's just not adding up. The numbers are not working out. So from your standpoint, and again, I know that you've got a lot of great teams out there, but I'm just curious to hear from an organizer standpoint, or maybe you speak with other organizers, and not even KCBS, I'm just talking about competition barbecue in general. From an organizer standpoint, what can teams do, right, to provide more value so that we as in cook teams are relevant long term?
So I will have to say that in my event happens during the town festival. So we have a lot of public that come to town and a lot of public that walk through the barbecue area. And I have never heard anybody complain that a barbecue team was rude to them or like they asked them a question or whatever, they were standoffish. I've actually never even heard a barbecue team truly complain about the public being rude. But to me, I think most of the competitions need to happen during a festival of some sort because, and don't get me wrong, straight barbecue competitions, great. It minimizes extra whatever that may happen,
Distractions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But the other thing is too is for the public standpoint, they want to eat the barbecue. So if you got barbecue teams in town, what are you going to do? Well, I made a plan and I fixed it. I fixed the issue that I was having. And so we do a rib dinner Friday night. I have a team out of Iowa. They're called Smoke and Grumps Barbecue. Bruce is one of my really good friends. For several years, he has come to State Center and has cooked many racks of ribs for me for the public to eat.
Right.
And we do that as a fundraising dinner because the public, as soon as they smell that meat, that smell that smoker, they're like, hey, where can I get a sample? Hey, what's this? Kind of thing. And then it just starts the conversation a little bit more. They want to look at the smokers. I'm a smoker girl. Like you pull out a smoker and I haven't seen it or like it's got something. I bartend also. So like I have had a couple patrons come in and they're like, oh, I just don't like my Traeger. He goes, I really like the charcoal flavor. I can get you so. I mean, obviously I'm promoting because I own one. I'm not getting any money for this.
Right.
But a RecTec Bullseye.
There you go.
Is my baby.
Yep.
So, those types of things. I swear the RecTec Bullseye is a pellet smoker, and a Weber had a baby. And it was the best thing that ever happened. But those are the things, like you have to put yourself out there as not just the public, but as the teams and being like, okay, again, what type of value am I putting into this life? If I just go to contests that are just barbecue contests, what about branching out and traveling a little bit to maybe a town that's doing it during their festival? So I'm helping with a backyard contest in Albion, Iowa, which is about 30 minutes north of State Center. And this will be their first year. And the organizers are very skittish because they're like, well, when do we stop? What something happens and we have to give their money back. And I'm like, don't fret. I got 16 teams. My contest is 2 weekends after yours and I have to have 25.
Right.
You don't have to have 25. You're a backyard contest. You just set the max. You work on it however you feel comfortable. And they're just like, what? I'm like, it's going to be okay. Like your first couple years are going to be tough. Anytime you organize anything, it's going to be tough because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. But truly, from my point of view and the things that I've done organizing contest and helping with the Iowa BBQ Society of doing the backyard and from an organizer standpoint, because I'm not a team. I'm not a judge. So I'm trying to find the value for them and to promote these other contests as backyard is huge because we want to show people that we have our crap under control and we are a good resource to help you have a contest. And that's something that I've been working on with the Iowa BBQ Society is having a organizer's outlet because truly, if there wasn't some amazing people in my life when I first started, I would not be standing here today. I would not have 9 years underneath my belt. I would not have the ability to say that I'm actually an IBS board member if it wasn't for my support team. And I totally give a big, huge shout out to my boyfriend, Jeff, because as much as he's like, Okay, Megan, it's 6:30 in the morning and you're talking about barbecue. Like, I just woke up.
Right.
No. And I'm like, I can't help it. Like, I'm super excited. Like my email, okay, it's like, I got a donation for Rose Festival. This is huge. 6:30 in the morning. That's enough. I'm like, okay, fine.
I love that.
So, but it is.
I was going to say, I love what you said about the festivals going, like having a competition in conjunction with the festival. I would agree. Like, I've actually made it a point. We don't cook competitions anymore unless it's part of a festival. Because I figured out, for me anyway, I like that interaction. I like, all the liveliness that's going on around us. And I've been to some that it's just a competition and it's just not the same. You don't have that same energy. You don't have that same, vibe, which I know is a real cliche term nowadays. But I agree. I think attaching it to something that's well established, which also helps the organizer, especially in those early years, because now, people are already going to be down there anyway, which, just it benefits everybody. Right. So, and I want to go back to what I want to go back to what you said about the RecTec bullseye and chat about that. Right. Because, where I am in the Augusta area, this is RecTec country down here.
Yeah. Jody, if Jody's listening to this, he better be hitting me up. I'm just saying. No, my boyfriend definitely, when we first started this, he had an offset smoker. Well, actually, I had an electric smoker, like a master built. And we would smoke everything you could possibly think of. Did a lot of pork loin, ribs. I'm a rib girl. I love my ribs. Eggs, some of that kind of stuff. And then we got to an offset smoker. And he was like, man, it's just not me. And then we did some research and he ended up picking up a Pellet Pro. And I really like the Pellet Pro because it is definitely my outside oven. I bake cookies in it.
Yep.
I've done cakes in it. I've done an actual cheesecake, a smoked cheesecake in it. So like and the kids love it. They're like, ooh, we get smoked chocolate chip cookies, apple pie. Like they're just as experimental as Jeff and I are of putting stuff on the smoker. And I'll have to say that a couple weekends ago when I was at the Iowa State Championship, they did a kids queue. And I've never really been around a kids queue. I've been to other contests, but I've never been able to like kind of stick around and see the kids put together their meat and how they prepped and starting their smoker or, their grill or whatever they were cooking on. And I was completely blown away. And mind you, my 16-year-old son was with me and we were talking about it, whatever. And he was like, Mom, I think that we can't do it this year, but I'm willing to organize the kids queue part for next year at Rose Festival. And I go, what? Like, you're going to take time out of your playtime to how mom gets crazy sometimes during Rose Festival. Like, she's got stuff to do. And he was like, no, it would help take stuff off your plate and still be able to have the kids involved, because we just listened to a couple of these teams saying that they wouldn't even came if there wasn't a kids queue because their kids want to cook. And I'm like, you're onto something like that. And I've not heard that. You know what I mean? Like, there's always been talk about how they really enjoyed kids queue and stuff like that, but not to the point of, well, we would have never even came to this contest if there wasn't a kids queue. And West Marshall is in State Center. It's West Marshall School District. There is a May term class that is the smoke and grill class. And I literally was talking to one of the teachers, and who was a teacher when I went to school, and I'm, graduated in 05. I'm like, man, you're still here? He was like, shut up. But I was like, why are we not having the kids compete in State Center? Like, you guys have been doing this class for several years, and State Center has had their People's Choice ribs for 13 years. What are why is the school not putting together a team? Which you had just had one of, it's been a few weeks, that school that they had two teams and they ended up taking first and second place, for the Kids Q in, I think it was Memphis. I can't remember. I should have re-listened to the episode before, but it was enough in my head. But I was like, why are we not doing that? Because
Yeah,
that's our
I think you're
backyard.
I think you're talking about the episode I did with Tom Tilley with the Tallulah Falls Pit Vipers. He heads up
Yes.
that high school team, and yes, they did win the
Yeah.
national high school championship in Memphis, and I think have won it 2 years in a row now. And Tom's got them clicking on all cylinders. He's got it going on up there, and I think he could literally write a book on how to create a high school competitive barbecue team at this point.
I'd like him to get my contact information so that I can relay the message, because truly small town is where you're going to grow some of that backyard stuff.
That's right.
And it's going to be interesting.
I'd also say this. So I have 2 boys of my own, and they love, like with a capital L, they love the Kids Queue. And I'm not going to say that if there's not a Kids Queue, I'm not going, but I will say that if there is one, it really incentivizes it, because they love going, they love cooking, they love getting up on stage and all that fun stuff. So I would say that absolutely add a Kids Queue for next year. It's a no-brainer. And a lot of times what I've seen happen is just through the existing partnerships and sponsors that you already have for the festival, you're able to get a lot of that stuff that would be needed donated for the kids, right? The meat.
Yes.
I've even been to Kids Queues where they literally give the kids like a brand new grill. I mean, it's here's your, so I can't, like, I love those things. And I think I absolutely would say that you're going to have a great response from that. And I think you're actually going to attract more teams. I really believe that.
I think so too. I just don't think my son knows how much work it's going to be.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's really not, no. Now, I'm not going to say it's not any work, but it's of course it's extra work, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's really more fun. It's not. It's not as serious as the pro or the backyard side. But let's go back to this RecTec you were talking about, because I want to know. Here's what I want to know. So you've got the bullseye. Is it the 380 or is it 380X?
380.
Okay. So you got the bullseye. You talked about smoking a cheesecake. You talked about smoking all kinds of things.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to smoke on that?
On the RecTec?
On the RecTec.
Actually, it's super funny. I mainly use the RecTec to grill burgers.
Yeah, there you go.
And steaks. Yep. Because it gets up to a very high temperature, and you can actually sear a steak on there. And which there's nothing wrong with doing like the Pellet Pro and stuff. But this last fall, we did a camping out of my mom and dad's place, and they live out in the country. My kids ride dirt bikes, and my uncle brought a rack of ribs. And normally my boyfriend is the one that will come and like actually do the cooking. I'll just like prep. I'll do all that, bring the grill. He's usually the one that comes and does that. Well, he wasn't able to. So I turned and looked at my sister, Marissa, and I was like, hey, you want to help me? Because I've never actually smoked a rack of ribs. And she has. They have a pit boss at their house and things. Both her and her husband went to school for culinary arts. That's actually how they met, which was super cool. And she was like, yeah, sure, I'll help. So she helped a little bit or whatever, but then she ended up getting distracted and go do whatever. But it was the best rack of ribs I've had ever. And I was just like, what? These turned out perfect. And then I was like, can't wait to do that again, which I just pulled 3 racks of ribs out of the freezer a couple days ago. So Sunday will be my trial for sure. But truly, bacon on the RecTec.
Yep.
That's a winner. Chicken. Oh, we love smoking chicken wings on the RecTec. That's definitely my most favorite. So, but yes, everything. I mean, nobody cooks inside.
Right.
We even have a flat top. We do not cook inside.
I'm with you. If I can figure out a way to cook outside, I'm absolutely gonna do that. So I love that, and you can tell just the passion and energy you have for barbecue. And for our listeners, if any of our listeners want to organize an event for the first time, I'm sure that Megan would be happy to connect with you and help you just kind of understand all the ins and outs.
Oh yeah.
So we will, I'll make sure that we've got that in the show notes for our listeners just to be able to connect with you. How can they connect? How can they find out more information about this Rose Festival?
So the Rose Festival is the Iowa State Center rosefestival.org is the actual website. And you can actually, sign up for the barbecue contest on there. There is a tab that's on there for that. My contact information is actually on there too. You can contact me at rosefestivalbbq@gmail.com. But you can find me on Facebook, Megan Willier. I actually went through my friends list and I think I have more barbecue people on my Facebook than actual relatives. So, which I'm not going to complain about that at all. So, but yeah.
I love that. And that's what it's all about. I mean, it's about paying it forward. And you talked about the really cool, atmosphere that comes with this barbecue family. Last question I have for you has to do really with barbecue in Iowa. So
yes,
I want to just learn and educate our listeners on what is barbecue in Iowa? You say barbecue in Iowa. What does that mean?
Most people smoke pork loin.
Pork loin. Okay.
I don't, and that's what we started with, I guess. We started with more pork loin, do pork butt and ribs. Not very much. We don't do a lot of brisket. A lot of that is because, well, obviously the cost of it, right. But, a good buddy of ours, he'll do a prime rib every once in a while. And then we get the whole group together. So that's always fun. But truly, a lot of people pork loin, pork butt. And then obviously in the competition world, it's totally different because you see all four meats and that aspect of things. So,
and that's interesting. So it's my understanding the Iowa is like the largest pork producing state in the country, right?
Yep.
That's what I figured. I figured you were going to say heavy on the pork. The interesting thing that you said though is pork loin. I was going to expect you to say pork ribs, spare ribs, baby back, something like that. Because what I've found is, in my opinion, the pork loin is one of the most underrated cuts of pork there is.
When you eat a lot of it in the beginning, you don't want to eat anymore.
Right. And
I can still eat a lot of ribs.
Absolutely. Now, how do you like your ribs? Are you the full spare rib? Or are you going with the St. Louis cut? Or are you a baby back?
St. Louis style for sure. But we definitely tend to do the 1, 2, 3 method. But I also do like them dry, like sometimes we'll do them salt and pepper and sometimes those are the best ones. And it's so interesting, but I mean, we got a good variety of, season rack that we kind of go through every once in a while. The Iowa BBQ store out of Ottumwa, they're huge. I absolutely love being able to go down there and go shopping and like do all the testers. And they're good supporter. So they also support the Iowa Barbecue Society. And they truly see what growth needs to be. And I love that, that they're willing to kind of not just donate to my contest, but to also continue to push the education. They do a couple, little contests. Also, you can find that on their website or in their, Facebook, and they'll also, giveaways and things like that. But they're really trying to like get people out of their comfort zone a little bit to try different things, which is super cool.
I love that. Love the passion, love the energy for all things barbecue. It's literally like coming through the screen here. So it's awesome. I love it. Great discussion. And again, for our listeners, chatting with Megan Willier. She's the organizer, the coordinator of the Rose Barbecue Festival in State Center, Iowa. She is an organizing guru. So please, if you're out there listening and you don't know where to start, you're overwhelmed by how to even do something like this, as we said, feel free to connect with Megan, send an email, and she is a wealth of knowledge if you can't tell already. So Megan, we appreciate you coming on the show, and
thank you.
Hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Oh, I will.